everybody. Welcome back to Sessions with Paola. Today, I have a very special guest, Meleza S Morris. I see her through social media. A lot of people told me about her, and she has this really vibrant personality. And I have to say that meeting her in person, she exceeds my expectations. Guys, so let me begin by introducing her. So Meleza, preferred pronouns are they, he, she, is an intimacy coach and coordinator for TV and film at Shamanatrix and devoted to culinary arts. They are committed to a movement that helps to create impactful solutions in the sexual revolution, a sexual and consensual awakening. They desire to connect through creative and pioneering conversations and lay pathways to defeat adversity, building bridges around gender, erotic empowerment, body positivity, consent, and empowered choice. Meleza is a force of love and extends open invitation for shameless pleasure and limitless possibilities. Meleza, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so let's start by what inspired you to do this type of work?
So I would say the need to find community so I could feel safer in my freedom of expression around intimacy and sexuality is one aspect of it. And then another aspect is the sheer level of sexual harassment I've experienced in my life and wanting to be a part of the solution as opposed to a part of the problem, or not really being able to feel like I could voice myself in the problem. So both of those elements, my need to really be seen as a polyamorous, queer, kinky, erotic person, and then my need to feel safer in environments that I'm walking in at work or that others are walking in when they're at work.
And you're from Panama,
yes,
correct?
Yes.
So I wonder, were there any cultural messages that you had to grow away from in order to do the work that you do?
That's a great question. I basically moved to Miami when I was 7. And so I went to Panama 3 months out of the year for 10 years after that, mostly. And I feel like culturally in Panama, there is a lot of don't show yourself, don't show too much skin because you're asking for it. And I remember being 12 and the Diablo Rojos, which are the buses, and they usually are muraled out and decked out. They'd honk, or the bus drivers would whistle, or the taxi drivers would whistle if I'm crossing the street. And there's not much I can do for it, even if I'm covered head to toe. Yes. So not only was there this need for me to step into a world where I could express myself and show whatever part of my body I want and be seen in that way without it being some need, some sign that says, yes, I'm available for your sexual harassment. Mm-hmm. That was a cultural shift. Mm-hmm. And that there is a lot of backlash around that still, but I don't hear the chatter as much anymore, just because I've created a life for myself around more sex positive people and a sex positive culture. So then it's kind of helping folks who are really curious how to step into that world where they can freely express themselves and have freedom of choice in their sexuality and feel safety within themselves and within the people that they're magnetizing. Because ultimately, there is that aspect of how we are taking accountability for our own actions and what environments we're stepping into. But sometimes it's a cultural thing,
Yes, and I think, it's so interesting that you say that, because, even in so I'm Colombian, right? And in our countries, I think a lot of the times people don't talk about sexual harassment or when they're feeling uncomfortable sexually with someone because, machismo is there for men, but women can also be machistas. So if you tell mom or tia, ay tia, somebody was, almost following me. Bueno, ¿por qué te pusiste esa falda? Right? Why were you wearing that skirt? You should have wore pants. Why is it my responsibility? Right? And so I think that there's something about that we need to talk about this more openly, and that you should be able to wear anything that you like. I love leather and latex. And if I, what type of message am I? No type of message is just something that I enjoy. So thank you for sharing that. One of the conversations you and I had was, your job as an intimacy coordinator. And I was so intrigued and curious, and curiosity people have gotten me to many, many places. Can you tell our viewers a little bit more about what that means and what do you do as your job as an intimacy coordinator?
Absolutely. I do want to piggyback off of the previous question or response, which is like, we are all sexy, yummy people. And when we get to see each other that way, as opposed to judging each other according to our physicality, we live in a world where there's more opportunity to just be who we are, as opposed to needing to be in a world to fit an agenda for other people's way of thinking.
Yes, and I want to piggyback on that because I think, you know, the more that we judge, guys, like when we go out there into the world and we see this wonderful, voluptuous women wearing whatever, and we start to judge them, that harsh judgment, you're also implementing it on yourself. So it's such a good exercise. Emily Nagoski talks about this. Go outside and look at different people and say, she's beautiful, she's beautiful, she's beautiful. Because I think judgment is something that I think culturally we also have to grow away from in order to, you know, really taste and savor acceptance.
Yes. And so now, yes. So my role as an intimacy coordinator for television and film is to help create safer sets through consent-based language while the actors are performing simulated sex, nudity, or any forms of intimacy. And I also work with the directors to help them fulfill their creative vision. So I am the coordinator. I'm working with the directors, the actors, if I need to, the management of the actors, with the legal team for the nudity writers, around the boundaries that are being created around the certain actions that the actors are taking steps in regards to nudity, simulated sex, or intimacy. I work with wardrobe, I work with props, depending on whether we need to do like a shot where there is any kind of genitalia showing. So now we need to make a prosthetic set of testicles or a prosthetic set of genitals, a penis or a vulva. And so that's like the nutshell of it. In addition, we're also on set to help disrupt the power dynamics.
Yes. Tell us a little bit more about the power dynamics. What is it that you're trying to disrupt? What is it that you see?
Sure. So there's power dynamics in everything that we do, everywhere that we go. In the kink world, we know a lot about that, and domination and submission. And what ends up happening is that on set, we have these different roles. We'll have the director, we'll have the executive producer. And a lot of times, like, these particular people hold a lot of power on set. So someone who's coming in as an actor, let's say they're on the newer side of their acting career. And this director is like a hot shot. Everybody knows this person and they're really highly regarded. And they've agreed to doing a sex scene. And it's simulated sex. This is mainstream entertainment, not the adult porn industry, although there is crossover that's starting to happen, which is really exciting. Anyway.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, yes. The director says, you know, I know we agreed to this one set of actions. Like, I know we agreed to, like, you just having a hug, but honestly, like, this scene would be so much better if you kissed. And, like, not only if you kissed, but if you, like, French kissed and I saw, like, spit, like, coming between your, like, tongues. And the actor is, like, totally uncomfortable with it, but they do it because this director is a hot shot.
Wow.
And so it's little nuanced moments like that. And it's also just like, it's basically allowing for the bystander effect to not happen as much, because I'm now this point of authority on set and people are kind of like, oh, I need to watch my back a little bit more because there's an intimacy coordinator here. So I can't get away with as much as I could before.
Wow. And I wonder, here in Miami, have you found resistance, or where do you find resistance when it comes to the TV film industry, especially here in our city?
I love that question. And I had a meeting with another intimacy coordinator here in Florida, and she's been in the industry for quite some time. And so she has like a rapport with, you know, how different productions reach out to her. And she also works at an institution here where she has more access than I have had. But I moved to Austin and I have my intimacy coordinator page set up under Intimacy Professionals Association. And people were just reaching out to me, like left and right in Austin without me needing to like organically, without doing any kind of marketing or self-promotion. And here in Miami, it's like crickets. Like it's kind of, the observation is that like LA and New York, Atlanta and Austin are now leading in television and film. And I'm a little confused because the Latin American market is here. Univision and Telemundo is here just as much as it is in LA. So I'm curious, I'm like, why aren't the wheels turning as fast? Who do I need to have a conversation with en masse in the industry to say, hey, this is something that's an asset for your production. It's not something that's going to take away from your production. There's a lot of directors who are afraid that we're going to step in and that we're going to take their role as a director. But our responsibility is to support the director and support the actors and ensure that the production house isn't going to have some, lawsuit pending because there is a rupture on how any form of intimacy was created in the scene or on set.
Love it. And I wonder, how do you, because I think, there's something about them. Is it like where when we think about Miami, it's so diverse and there's so many cultures, but I think that sometimes they want to keep it really traditional. This is the way that we've done things, so this is the way that we're going to continue to do them. And don't get me started on the subject because I can talk about so many things that are happening right now in our state that, that kind of almost connect to what I'm saying, right? In some ways, let's talk a little bit about the importance of consent. Yes. What do you think the Latino culture needs to better understand when it comes to consent?
I think in general, the nuance of consent is really, really important. Also, especially in Latin American cultures or in experiences for myself, we are like tactile people. Yes. We're like, un besito aquí, nice to meet you. Like, oh, hey, like a little like touch on the hips, just to like say goodbye or something like that. And it's not that those actions aren't welcome or that they're not nice. It's just that everybody has a different way of wanting to be approached in their personal space. And I think that needs to be honored more. And it's something that's not honored as much because it's so ingrained in the culture to reach out and touch someone when you say hello or when you say goodbye. And there needs to be a little bit more conversation around the communication piece of touch and also of body language.
Yes, and even, you reminded me of something. So my sister is a physician and she lives in Boston and she was talking to one of my grandma's doctors. My mom is like, can you please talk to my daughter? And the doctor's like, ¿Cómo estás, mi amor? ¿Cómo estás, mi vida? And she's like, I go by Claudia or Dr. Rodriguez, right? So she's like, oh my God, when I go back there, mi amor, mi vida, which is, it's tricky, right? Because sometimes we say it to each other, but in some contexts, it's like, oh, that doesn't feel too good.
Yeah.
And I don't even know you. I'm not your amor. I'm not your mi vida. Right? So I think it's not only physical, but also the way that we communicate. And it is important to understand. I love what you said. How do we negotiate spaces? Can you repeat that? So you said something about how when you come into my space, right? How do we negotiate that? Yes. Something along those lines.
So I find like in the conscious communities, there's a lot of conversation around, is it okay if I hug you? And it's just that quick little question, because, and what we've kind of done in, I feel like the US community is the handshake, or a lot of the business world internationally, it's the handshake, right? Like that's the appropriate way. But it's even gotten to the point where that doesn't necessarily feel well for a lot of folks either. I mean, COVID is still here and COVID changed that. So like going up to someone and kissing them on the cheek, and honestly, there's been times when, I love the kiss on the cheek, but there have been times when someone kisses me on the cheek and they get me right here, like right on this little place on the mouth. And like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, but there's a part of me that feels like it was on purpose.
Yes. Or like I could feel your little sweat on top of your lip. I'm like, that's, no, gracias. One of your visions, Elisa, is to help people feel free, and helping them with sexual freedom and expression. What is important for you, or what do you keep in mind when you're providing these transformational experiences for people. And I love that word, transformational experiences, because we live in a culture, it's like, how do I get rid of? How do I stop that from happening versus transform, right? Change your relationship with. What is important for you to keep in mind when you're doing this?
Love that. For me personally, in a space where I hold power, where I have knowledge, where I'm bringing this to someone else who isn't as informed in this particular subject matter, I find it really important to remind myself that I am in service. I am in service to this person. I am in service to the community, to the collective thought process of what it means to come to love, of what it means to expand our hearts, and what it means to allow ourselves to be seen fully and heal in the places that oftentimes we were shunned. And that's how I approach any of my clients, any of the work that I do, is that I am devoted to service, and I am devoted to service and freedom of expression and freedom of choice and love.
Yeah, and even that, you guys, because my next question kind of ties into what you're saying. Is there anything psychological that you think people experience in the work that they do with you?
100%.
Yes.
Yes.
You're already answering that, but tell us more.
Yes. I oftentimes with my clients ask them if they are seeing a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist, just as also an intake with any of my coaching clients. It's really important to have that information. First and foremost, I am not a licensed therapist. So I'm a sex educator, I'm an intimacy coach, a consent coach, I'm a liberator of all things taboo and stigmatized.
Oh, love it.
And it's wonderful to work with folks like yourself who have this more formal licensed training, and it allows for more expansiveness. So I say, hey, if there's anything that's coming up for you in our coaching, like make sure you bring that up with your therapist and have a conversation about that and get back to me. Let me know, check in with me. Your feedback is welcome. So I definitely find that there's a reprogramming, a deprogramming, neuroplasticities expanding. It's all of that.
And I love how you said earlier that you wanted to be part of the solution, right? And I think my dream is that, united we can do more, right? And this is why I really aim to find people like you, myself, that are already doing so much work in this field. I wonder, what do you think we need to do as a collective to create safer spaces for exploration for diverse people and people of different cultures?
So,
especially here in Miami, maybe, because I don't know, what do you think?
I'm still learning the Miami market. What I have found in my trainings is that when we are doing advertising, that we really need to put like us on there, not somebody else. Because when we advertise a certain product or service or way of being, we have to ensure that it can be reflected in the people that we're seeing. So like that's something that I have found in other cultures. People will try to like be diverse, but it's predominantly looking like one like type of gender expression or one type of socioeconomic expression. So it's really important to be able to speak into the diversity of the culture here around like our skin types. And also I feel there needs to be more spaciousness for the queer community in a way that isn't limited to like, oh yeah, this is like our month to celebrate. And like, this is like our parade to have, and these are our clubs to have, and this is our like particular newspaper. It just needs to be everywhere. And there also needs to be more education probably in general that isn't as expensive, that more community outreach can happen where, if I have my private coaching clients, then how am I creating a community event that might be free for people to come and check out and then collaborate with other people and be able to really address many communities as opposed to just like my lane. So for me, I think in short, collaboration is key.
Yeah, and I think it's because some of the people that I work with, people that maybe older generations, and I saw, maybe their daughter, maybe they're, exploring queerness or polyamory, and they're like, Paola, es que yo no entiendo, right? Like, why can't it just be hombre y mujer? Y por qué, but that always stems from fear.
Yes.
The emotion, I don't know, this is too complicated. What does this mean? So I think, diversity and collaboration. And as a woman from Panama, what do you think that the Latino community, Latinos, listen, open your ears, right? What do they need to know about sexual freedom, kink, anything that comes to mind, whether it is a misconception that our Latino community may have? What do you think they need to know?
There are more nerve endings in your anal glands than there are in the tip of your penis or your clitoris. It's very important for you to know this.
Love it. Love it.
Don't be shy.
Y punto. Don't be shy. That's amazing. Meleza, thank you so much for joining us today, guys. If this is the first time here, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And I believe in the power of community. So if you have anybody that can use this type of information, please share it with them. Thank you so much. Subscribe to Sessions with Paola. And Meleza, how can people find you?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my God.
So y'all can follow me on Instagram at eatmycake.love. And you can also go to my website for intimacy coordination, which is melezasmorris.com. And between those two places, you'll be able to find all sorts of information of how to stay in touch and support myself and the community that I am a part of.
Yay! All right, guys. Thank you. Bienvenidos.